The Honorable Christy Noble is here.
Hey, hi, hi.
Hey, Christy.
Christy, you need to bounce. We could start with the chair's minute.
We could. Christy, the party was so amazing.
Oh, it was so fun.
You did such a great job. And you know what I discovered is no one knows how to throw a pie.
They didn't. I didn't get very much whipped cream in my face, except when people cheated.
Oh, well, I didn't even throw one, and I wanted to, but I would have just come right up in front of you and done it. But even Clay Jenkins couldn't. He was 2 feet away and he missed.
I think that EVJ got the closest.
Oh, okay. You had a little whipped cream on your face, but it was funny. It was
Yeah,
Christy, I have a picture of that. Do you have a picture? Because I have a great picture. I'm going to send it to you.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
I have some videos I'm going to post on Facebook.
Wonderful. And I'm sorry, team. I am on my, I sit at my desk on an exercise ball, and everybody on my campaign team says, do not sit on that while you're on Zoom because you look crazy. I'm like a child. I have to move and bounce and stuff, but sorry.
We welcome that with the feds, as you well know. So
I got the full Monty with me. So.
We should all just do it in solidarity. Just pretend that we're on an exercise ball.
Awesome. Is now my minute?
I mean, if you're ready to go, yeah, we'd love it. We'll start with Christy. Everyone will get pumped up to start this time.
Hey, feds. Oh my gosh, love the feds. You guys are doing great. It's so good to see you, everybody, all the smiling, happy faces. I'm going to give you a quick update about what's going on with the Dallas County Democratic Party. We had the picnic yesterday. Big success. Lots of people got lots of signatures. Everybody was super happy about that. Hey, Judge Clinton, I see you. And actually, we got some judges on the line. I'm going to send out an email to the judges. Judge Hoffman told me that there was some confusion about signs at the Democratic County Party headquarters. And we definitely want judges and all electeds to be able to drop signs off there that we will give out during the primary and stuff, and during the general election. We just were trying to clean stuff up and didn't want to have pallets of people's signs. That was the only deal. So that information is going to go out. I wanted to make sure everybody knew about that. We are doing, we're going to have great things going on. We are running with the precinct chair training programs and laying out how we want areas and what we're calling regions, which are groups of precincts within House districts, to do events in October. They are starting to stack up. We want events all through the county in October to build democratic communities and to work on building amazing armies of volunteers within each precinct to be able to do get out the vote as we move into the 2022 election. We're going to, every 3 months, we're going to have a plan of what we want precinct chairs and precinct teams to be doing. So if you do not know who your precinct chair is, or your precinct organizer, or your precinct team, get with me. I'll get you engaged. And we want to have events all over the place. And I'm going to be calling folks out. I'm going to be calling regions out. If you don't have an event going on in October, I'm going to be wanting to know why and what you need to make it happen. The other thing we started, we have our field and outreach director. He started today, Edward Turner. He was the Dallas City's census director for 2020. He did an amazing job. He's been with TOP, and he's going to do great. The last thing I'm going to say is that it's a plea, and I'm sorry, my dogs are barking. It's a plea like every other political person does, but I just want to tell you that if we had 10 people from every precinct give $10 a month, we would blow our budget out of the water, and we would be able to give money back to the precinct chairs to do these events on a regular basis. 10 people, $10 a month, 20 people, $5 a month from every precinct. and we're in. I'm going to throw a donate button in there. And if you guys would do that, I'll even put up the pie thing at the Dallas County Democratic headquarters. You donate more than $25 a month or $25 a month to the Dallas County Democratic Party, and you can come down and throw a pie in my face any day of the week, okay? All right, I am so happy for all the candidates, all the precinct chairs, precinct organizers I see here. Thank you so much. We are going to make a difference in 2020. So this is about justice reform. We need reform from a justice perspective. We need environmental justice. We need women's rights justice. We need bail bond justice. We need all kinds of it. And I appreciate you guys for doing this, this program tonight. So thank you guys so much. I can answer a question or two if anybody has any questions, and I'm going to take off.
Any questions, guys? Thank you, Christy.
All right. Watch the CBS News tonight. I think I might be on it, or at least a quote. Bye.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Christy.
And we have so many candidates here today. Thank you everyone for coming. As Brandy said, please do write your info in our chat, and we're going to make sure there are really so many here that we're going to make sure that we're going to make a post, and we'll include everyone's websites. Thank everyone for attending. So we'll make sure that people are aware who showed up and get your info. Brandy?
Yes, you ready?
Yeah, y'all ready to talk?
All right. So I would love to introduce our two guest speakers today that we have invited to come and speak about the new bail reform bill that is, of course, wrongly named. There's no reform. It's going the opposite direction. So Alison Grinter is a criminal law or criminal lawyer who, I'm gonna have to read this, sorry, because I didn't have time to memorize it. A graduate of SMU School of Law and the University of Houston Honors College. She's a board certified lawyer in criminal law with over 15 years of legal experience and a focus on felony defendants and mental health cases. She is a former public defender, practicing in both federal and state courts at the trial and appellate levels, and now owns her own law firm. Additionally, we are honored to have Judge Tina U. Clinton, who is the judge of the Dallas County Criminal Court #1 in Texas since 2018. And by the way, she's up on the next ballot, just FYI. She has 25 years of criminal law experience as a prosecutor, defense attorney, and judge. She has a nationwide reputation in criminal law and a track record of serving her profession. She has taught criminal law throughout the United States and has testified before the Texas Senate Subcommittee on Criminal Justice and the Texas House Committee on Probation and Parole. So we have asked them to come today and talk to you about this legislation that unfortunately has not received a lot of press or hoopla because we have other constitutional rights being taken away from us. So we thought you should know about what's going on here. So I would like to introduce Judge Clinton and Attorney Grinter. So hi, everybody. Oh, let's make sure that they can.
I'll let Judge Clinton go first.
There you go.
Oh, thank you, Allison. So I kind of feel like I am talking to a lot of people who have experience in this area. So I've already warned everyone, if you practice criminal law, I may be calling on you. It's Jeopardy 101. And so, but no fear, this is a fun crowd. And Feds, I want to thank you for having us here. So one of the things that I sort of want to go back and talk about is about 2016, when I went down to go testify, it was actually on this exact issue. It was because they were doing some work on doing some understanding of what laws were necessary, because the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court had already talked about the state of the judiciary, and we knew from what was going on in Dallas County that we really needed resources to deal with bails and pretrial, all of these things that happen pre-adjudication, so determination of guilt. So before trial, before a plea, before all these things happen. And so when I went down to go testify, the committees basically said that we don't have the money. You need to sweet talk your commissioners into doing something. And there was a disparity in Dallas County that still is a disparity that exists. So Bexar County spends about $5 million a year in pretrial. Dallas County, at the time that I went in 2016, spent less than $1 million. And if you know the size of Bexar County versus Dallas County, it's not just a dollar disparity. Per person in jail, that is a tremendous amount. Per number of defendants in the system, the disparity amount is tremendous. And so, so I came back home a little disheartened, and then literally less than 2 months after I went to testify, the first federal lawsuit involving Harris County was filed in federal court. 2 months after I testified. And all of a sudden, the Committee on Criminal Justice was interested in trying to figure out how to pass a bail reform bill. They failed 2 legislative sessions in a row. This was a 3rd legislative session. Obviously, they took it up in special session because they weren't able to do anything in the normal session. The bill that passed is Senate Bill 6. There was a companion bill that went with it, putting on a constitutional change and putting it to the voters. That one failed. And so even though there were 2 bills that came together into the special session, one was supposed to be a constitutional change to get it on the ballot so people could vote. And then the other one was Senate Bill 6. Senate Bill 6 passed with lots of redlining. And then the companion bill about the constitutional change did not. I also want you to know, just kind of as a background, these are not, Senate Bill 6 does not look like many of the first attempts at bail reform. And I don't call this a bail reform bill. I call this a bail bill, but it is not a bail reform bill. And so, so there are lots of things to delve into and discuss about this, but I want you to know that many of the attempts that happened, 4 years ago, 2 years ago, those things did not make it into this bill. And we'll talk about what didn't make it, what did make it, and a lot of other things. We'll take some questions, but I sort of wanted you to have that backdrop of what is happening. Also, just to fill in the picture just a little bit more, in that time, right after I testified, not only did Harris County have a lawsuit on bail, remember that the federal judge in that case found that Texas had unconstitutional practices when it comes to bail. Since that case, Corpus Christi has been sued in federal court. Dallas County has been sued in federal court. Dallas County had a judge, a federal judge, found that the practices of bail in Dallas County following Texas law was unconstitutional. It went up to the 5th Circuit, which is the appellate court for the federal courts. And they left that finding of unconstitutionality alone. In fact, they cite that, the Houston case as well as the Dallas case, when they did their appeal. So the finding of unconstitutionality when it comes to the way that Texas practices bail is still standing. And in my opinion, nothing really has changed that with this bill. Allison, I'm going to let you take it from there.
Cool. Okay. So Judge Clinton and I deal with bail every day, all the time. Y'all, please do not look at my background. My office is a total disaster. I see y'all looking at this background, but honestly, that side of the office is my husband's. And so you need to know that getting started. Okay. Glad to have gotten over that part.
I love you, Allison.
So for those who don't deal with bail every day, it may be worthwhile to take just a little quick look at what bail is about and what the factors are that are at play here. So I have a couple of slides to show you to get everybody on the same page. Oh, somebody let me share screens. Is that who's, I don't know whose responsibility that is.
Okay, now try it.
Okay. Great. Okay. So you heard Judge Clinton talk about how we have a cash bail problem, and that there's lawsuits. And in fact, Judge Clinton is being sued right now. So there are some things that she really can't talk to you about. But I want you to know what the activists and reformers are on about and what the Republicans are so scared of. So let's get started. Okay, so bail is supposed to be, hey, leave your driver's license here at the counter when I give you the bowling shoes, so that you remember to come back and give back the bowling shoes. And if you don't, I have your address and name. Everything's cool. That's all the security we need. And that is what it was for a while, because frankly, without bail, the presumption of innocence kind of doesn't exist. If you're waiting in jail to go to court, what good is it that you're presumed innocent? There should be a way to extend the faith that is due everyone who is charged with a crime that comes along with the presumption of innocence. And so it should be not so much money that the defendant cannot pay for it. If it's so much money that the defendant can't pay for it, then it's no longer a security, it's just keeping you in jail. If I say you're charged with theft, and in order to get out of jail before trial, you have to pay $10 billion. Well, you might as well have said you have to pay Saturn. I mean, just forget about it. You can't get out. There's no way you can get on that much money. So one consideration is that it shouldn't be more than the defendant can pay, but the other kind of competing consideration is that it has to be enough that it's a meaningful amount, something that makes you come back for it. If I said, in order to take these bowling shoes, you have to leave me 1 penny. Okay, well, I just bought those bowling shoes for 1 penny. Like, let me just tell y'all that I've never owned them. They're weird looking. I'd like to have a pair. So the amount of money that's meaningful to you is going to depend on what the charge is. If you're charged with capital murder, $10 is not going to do it. You know what? $700 isn't going to do it. $1,000 isn't going to do it. I'm not coming back if I'm charged with capital murder. We need to know, we need to have an amount that fits the seriousness of the crime and will discourage somebody from fleeing the country when it looks like that might be more in their best interest. Okay, so, but also it takes into consideration the defendant's financial situation. What is a meaningful amount is going to be a much smaller amount for me than it is for Jeff Bezos. Make sense? So that's what bail is designed to be. But we got some problems. The state isn't ready. There's a long delay between when you're arrested and when trial is able to happen. And that really changes the calculus as far as how much money or what should happen during bond. You know, when accountability is not available in any quick period of time, courts taking a long time means it takes too long for an innocent person to get justice, and it takes too long for a person who has been wronged by a crime to get justice. And a bail period can really kind of be a spoiler in the accountability process when we need courts to provide us accountability. But also, one of the biggest lies in our system is that pretrial incarceration isn't punitive. Everybody knows it is. And bail is supposed to alleviate that. But it doesn't, because there has cropped up this sort of predatory class of bail bondsmen. And what they do is, for people who cannot afford to post bail, for those folks who cannot afford to post bail, they kind of flip the incentives. Instead of coming back to court because you want to get your money back, They charge you much less money. You'll never get it back. And you come back to court because you don't want them to hunt you down and take your stuff. So it gives us sort of an inverted set of incentives. Bail bondsmen are just like any other insurance company. They make money by taking easy bets. And when it looks like there's a risk, they minimize it. Which means that they will turn people in if they think that their surety is at risk. And something that makes their surety feel at risk is if the process takes too long. If you go to trial, if you draw out the period of time where they are risking money, that is a problem. And they'll start looking for reasons to stop insuring you because it's taking too long. But also, bondsmen have become so prevalent that they're just kind of baked into the system. And now, if a judge were to say, well, for Alison, based on this crime of theft or whatever, I think $2,000 is probably an amount of money that would be meaningful enough for her and that she could afford. Okay, if $2,000 is the reasonable sum for me, now everyone has access to bondsmen. And so a judge is going to set my bond at $20,000 because they'll know that I can pay $2,000 to a bondsman. And so judges and the availability of bondsmen has made it such that bondsmen are almost entirely required. And so really a defendant gets both sides of the worst of both worlds. They have to pay the meaningful amount of money. They never get it back. And they have this predatory sort of add-on into the system, haranguing them and putting them in jeopardy all the time. And also you have reactionary groups like police unions and prosecutors unions who really just kind of resent the idea of bond to begin with, because it puts criminals, all of whom they believe to be guilty, back on the streets immediately without any consequences and all. And honestly, that does happen, because when you have a court system that can't give accountability in any kind of speedy fashion or any kind of fashion that's at all proximate to the harm, to the wrong, you have either people sitting in jail needlessly or guilty people out on the streets suffering no consequences and having no accountability. You've got actually, I mean, you have both. You have both wrongs happening at the same time. So in come the reformers, and what they want is for the system to work properly. Defendants need to be responsive to the court. The court needs to know that defendants are going to show up and answer for the charges and for their actions. And during that time, public safety is a real issue. If the courts can't give accountability, then the period between arrest and conviction, the public has to be kept safe, and the wrongs that have been committed have to be redressed in some way. Okay, so what would help? What actually would do something? Weirdly, bringing courts into just the 21st century and communicating the way human beings communicate, sending text messages, emails to defendants so that they know when their court dates are some of the most effective reforms. Most people who miss court do so because they don't know when their court date is. A lot of folks move, not the least of which because when they get arrested or spend any period of time in jail, they get evicted. So they move necessarily, but people move all the time, and courts take so long that people go through 2 or 3 apartments before they hear what's going on. And so texting, email, the kinds of ways that people keep in communication can really help. Also connecting defendants with their attorneys and making sure defendants can talk to their counsel adds another layer of protection on that. And courts staying in contact with people who are on bond and being able to monitor what's going on and hold people accountable and sort of annoy people while they're on bond actually works quite well. And of course, getting it done, courts that can move and can bring justice in some kind of timely fashion really helps things move along. Okay, so that's what the reformers want. Republicans, terrified by the idea that people are going to be out on bond and drummed up by a whole bunch of police associations and unions that talk about dangerous criminals running free on your streets. Nothing is safe. Came up with a plan. There's many pages. I want to make sure that we get into it in detail, but just a bird's eye view. It's kind of an evergreen concept for Republicans generally. And that is to go ahead and make sure that people who are trying to govern in good faith have fewer and fewer tools, and that wealthy people can, thank goodness, live free from meaningful consequences for their actions. Okay, I think we're done. We have it started. And so that's where we take this bill.
Sorry about that. All right, Judge Clinton, can you start with breaking down the ins and the outs on a high level of the bill? We'd appreciate it.
Sure. So remember, Senate Bill 6 has been put on Governor Abbott's desk. It went to his desk on September the 1st. It has not yet been signed. We anticipate that he will, because he pulled it into special session himself. And so we anticipate that it will, but as of now, it has not been signed. So let me start by saying that, remember, there was a part of this bill that was supposed to go along with another companion bill that was supposed to give a possibility for a constitutional change when it comes to Texas Constitution and the issue of bail. And that has been scrapped. That did not get out of special session. So
just to interject, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Every Texan, just a little bit of background, every Texan, except people who are charged with capital murder under some circumstances, is entitled to bail. You are entitled to at least cash bail being set. And the GOP is really telegraphing their intent to weaken, if not throw out entirely, that constitutional protection. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Judge.
That being said, it didn't pass. And so the constitutional amendment, or the attempt to get it, a constitutional amendment, has failed. And so there are parts of this bill that do not make sense. Or on the very last page, there is actually a clause that says that if this doesn't happen, then this entire section would be struck. So it is a very difficult to read bill because of that. And remember that there are parts of this bill that have changed greatly from its origins. And so, and I'll try to kind of go over some of that as we go through it. But the first thing that it does is that it is going to keep the magistration of someone who gets arrested within 48 hours. That is the law now, and it maintains that. There is, then after all of that, there is a bunch of sections that are added, and it has to do with a public reporting system. It is a public safety reporting system. DPS has the responsibility of helping, and it is being maintained by the Texas judicial system. And it is intended to keep a record keeping of basically every defendant that has a Class B misdemeanor or above. So basically anything that is a jailable offense, misdemeanors, or any felony, it is intended to keep their criminal history, what happened on the bail, as well as the time frame in which something happened on that bail. And so it is a massive, basically multi-number of pages that talks about who is responsible, what information is to be put into that, what the reporting period is, all sorts of, specifics when it comes to this reporting system. Now, one of the big things that is in this particular—
Judge, excuse me, just let me pause you for a second because I think
Yes.
we might need to go over. First of all, maybe not all the people on the phone know what magistration is. So when you
Got
said
it.
48 hours, does that mean that the accused is entitled to a bail hearing within 48 hours?
Yes. So when someone is arrested within 48 hours, they show up before a magistrate judge. And what they do is they tell you what your charges are. They'll tell you what your basic rights are. Like, for example, the fact that you have a right to an attorney. If you can't afford one, one will be appointed to you. That whole, you are also told that you have the right to remain silent, that in any of these hearings, that confidentiality does not exist, so that anything that you say can be used against you. So there are basic rights as well as basic like information like charges. What are you, am I poor? Therefore, I need to let you know that I can't afford anything. All of that paperwork happens in that time frame, 48 hours of arrest. And so in Dallas County, that happens in our big jail. It also happens in every city that has a jail. They have a magistrate judge, and they are responsible for getting that done in that timely period. So if you get arrested from Dallas Police Department does not have their own jail. They use the county jail. And so they go to Lou Sterrett, which is right by the Trinity. If you get arrested by DeSoto has their own Tri-City jail, and you will meet one of the magistrates from that area. So that's who we meet.
At magistration, you hear what your charges are, and they do set bail. Now, magistrates are not elected judges. They are hired by the judges, and they're paid by the county. And it used to be, in Dallas County at least, that magistrates would set bail based on a bail schedule. And this is a set of bond amounts based on the offense type and the person's criminal history. And it's just like a chart. You would just follow down the column of what kind of offense is this, and how many times has this person been arrested in the past. And it was agreed to by the DA and the judges, and that's how it got made. And that's why in this bill, you'll see them talking about schedules for bonds. The federal court ruled that using a bond schedule, just a table, is not constitutional. It doesn't take into consideration who the person is, what their circumstances are. It does not take into consideration all of the, is this person going to return their bowling shoes factors? And it's just cut and paste for everybody, and one size does not fit all. And so put off by that, because the governor and the legislature were concerned about the expense and consideration that was going to have to be paid for to defendants based on that federal judge's ruling that everybody's an individual and has to be considered individually. The legislature made sure to specify that bond schedules are definitely super chill, all right, and not problematic at all. The fact that the legislature has said that does not make it true, but it does make it law. And it's not going to move the federal court, but it will create a lot more lawsuits and a lot more problems. And who knows what's going to happen? I mean, I know, and the county's going to spend a whole lot more money suing and defending against lawsuits.
So in that, Judge and Allison, Judge, you were talking about how, there's going to be this database with all this information about who, what, when, and why, which part of me is like, sweet, then we can tell who's abusing their discretion. We can tell if there are implications or maybe like a discriminatory impact when we can see that more Black defendants get, a higher bail or da 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 da. So tell me why we wouldn't necessarily be on board with that.
So it's not a matter of, for example, do we not want data? That's never our stance. But what I was getting to is one of the things that they intentionally not only left out, but they actually deliberately put in this bill that it was not to be included. And that's a risk score. So one of the things that previous bail bills had wanted is something called a risk assessment. A lot of the counties had been asking for it. A lot of judges had been asking for it. And basically, the risk assessment is a score that is from a validated study that not only can take like some of these scoring systems would take into account, for example, gender or race or some of these other factors. Like, for example, let me tell you what I mean by that. Some people think that that all risk assessments are by nature very detrimental to people of color. But there are some that actually take into account that people of color may have more criminal history because they are over-policed in their area. In other words, if all of us had police roaming the streets every day, you would get pulled over more because they would see when you rolled through a stop sign, when you didn't blink when you were about to turn. It means that you would have more reasons to be stopped and therefore more reasons to be searched, more reasons to come into contact, and therefore more chances of going to jail.
But
we know that these things happen.
But really, these risk assessments do operate just kind of like a BuzzFeed quiz. I mean, you do click the box. There's not a lot of room for variance. And the issue that activists have is that these risk assessments can and do just codify our biases. Now, better ones exist, lesser ones exist, but they don't get the job done on their own.
And they're not intended to get the job done on their own. There is no holy grail of information, but there is such a thing as giving information. And in this particular bill, one of the things that they put into this is that it shall not be included. In other words, there is no risk assessment that even if a county did, that information would not go into that database. So that I think is harmful.
Bree asks if the risk assessment is self-reporting by the accused person. And some of it is, and some of it comes from data that the DA submits that the accused person has no real ability to contradict and has no representation at the process. Actually,
no DA submits to a risk assessment. What the risk assessment is done is by a pretrial crew, and that pretrial can be people like, for example, our pretrial division for the longest time was run by the administrative offices, which is the county commissioners.
They're civilians, but
they are civilians.
They do take from NCIC, which, though it is not a prosecutor in its own right, is a database compiled by prosecutors and is the property of the state. They pull from
NCIC is your criminal history.
Sorry, yes, your criminal history as compiled and kept by the state.
And every criminal history is going to be kept by the state. But I think that criminal history becomes relevant when it comes to bond. So, for example, someone who has 6 aggravated robberies in their background with a new aggravated robbery is different than someone who has never had an aggravated robbery. It's different when you find out that what the facts of the aggravated robbery are that are being alleged. For example, is this a person who didn't know what was going on and was in the passenger seat? Or was it someone that we know from the allegations had a much bigger role to play? Those are the types of things that informationally, none of these things are silver bullets, but that information helps the judge in order to have it. And when someone says that you can't have that information, I think it's problematic.
So the only thing I wanted to do fleshing out here is to say that there is a lot of gray area involved, and the places where activists and reformers want to see that gray area fleshed out is in courts with real judges, with representation for both sides, so that the decisions can be made by people and not administrative policies.
So that is one of the key differences, is that it does not allow for a risk assessment of any kind. And so it is not to be kept, and it is not intentionally. So when it's supposed to go to the magistrate, this data collection is supposed to go to the judge within that 48 hours so that they can take that into consideration when they make the decision on bail. Now, one of the new things that they're adding is that sometime in this point, at any time, it can be after, it can be before, it can even be during. They say that a defendant can notify the magistrate that they cannot pay for this amount, and therefore they are asking for a review based on their indigency. Now, I think the problem with that is this. Instead of doing a financial questionnaire, which right now in Dallas County, they are self-reporting, meaning that someone tells me they have a job, someone tells me that they don't have a job. They've been on unemployment for the last 6 months. They tell me how many people they have dependents, how many people are dependent upon their salary, if they are salaried or if they make an income. Instead of that, this is just a blanket, I don't have the funds, period. So it doesn't request financial information. It just requests an affidavit saying that I can't pay. And so it waters down, or it doesn't give you information that would be relevant. For example, I always think that it's relevant when someone may make what looks like a decent amount of money, but then I find out that they have 6 children. 6 children completely turn the ball around about what I think is a decent amount of money to, oh, that's not any money at all. Because when you take into those expenditures, et cetera, you know, with that many dependents, with that, you know, you don't have that much. Oh, your mother and father, you actually take care of them and they're one of your dependents. So it gives you a different view of people. The only thing that this bill requires, and that they say that needs to be done, is someone just doing a basic form that they just sign that says, I can't afford to pay, and that's it. Again, it's not the information that judges are looking for. Judges are looking for much more detailed information so that we can, when we are dealing with bond, because a bond is not, am I letting you out? Am I not letting you out? It's a number, right? Or even on a PR bond, it's a number. A PR bond, by the way, is a personal recognizance bond. It means that you don't have to pay any money. But here's the thing about a PR bond. You say that if you don't come back, that I can put you on the hook for the amount that we're talking about. So a PR bond for $10,000, you don't pay anything. A bail bondsman doesn't pay anything. But if you don't appear, the county can go after you for that $10,000 that you agreed to when you said that I will reappear, right? That's the agreement.
And this bill makes PR bonds particularly difficult. It spells out a number of situations where a person has a charge, or has in the past had a charge that is violent or sexual in nature, or a lot of different situations that are otherwise that would disqualify them to have a personal recognizance bond now and forever and ever in the future. It makes personal recognizance bonds particularly difficult to get. And that's problematic for a couple of different reasons. The first and foremost is that personal recognizance bonds should be the default setting. In the federal system, it is required for release on one's own recognizance to be the default, and if cash is to be charged, there should be a reason for it. And in Texas, we have always kind of defaulted to cash bonds, but PR bonds are used for a lot of different things. So a PR bond is when a judge sends somebody out of the jail, and with or without certain conditions like electronic monitoring, alcohol monitoring, ignition interlock, all kinds of drug testing. But if the person fails to come into court, there can be other consequences, money and other stuff. PR bonds are used for a whole bunch of misdemeanors, almost all misdemeanors, a lot of different felony offenses, and special circumstances. For instance, when somebody is very, very sick and needs to go to the hospital and have their family visit them, the jail will often come to the court and say, give this person a PR bond, and then, you know, you can bring them back in after circumstances change, but they need to be in the hospital. If a person is found incompetent and they're going to recover their competency in mental health treatment or through a diversion program or something in the community, PR bonds get that person out of jail and into treatment. Limitations on PR bonds are entirely stupid. There is a huge limitation on PR bonds already, and it is that a judge has to sign it for it to happen. The person who is gatekeeping PR bonds is the judge. We elected them to do it. We expect them to do it. That's their job. And placing restrictions on judges' ability to keep people in jail or give them PR bonds is just going to complicate lots of different things in the system. And it's not going to solve anything. Nothing will be solved by that, because judges now are going to start making $1 bonds or, 1 penny bonds, 1 penny. Yeah. And it's going to make administrative nightmares, because now the only thing that's at stake is a penny.
So Alison, hold on, just say, I want to circle back to something you said, because I'm not sure I understood, but so now this bill, if signed, will not allow PR bonds for certain charged offenses, regardless of the person's history, whether they've never been charged with anything in their entire lifetime,
Right.
whether they could be like a priest that never leaves the convent, or whatever.
Maybe
whatever.
a weird.
But I'm just saying, to say that there's no individual consideration for what that is, just based upon what's being alleged to get them, but has not yet been proved.
Exactly. Or based on their prior history.
So Brandy, one of the easiest, so people go, yeah, but those are assaultive, or they're, felonies, or, that sounds okay. So let me give you a real fast example that once you start hearing these examples, you'll see why it's not that cut and dry. Let's say that a doctor or a nurse was assaulted, and you're going, oh, no, we don't want them out. But what if someone was in a coma? They woke up not knowing what was going on. Someone is hurting them, didn't know that they were in the hospital, and they lashed out and they hurt that person. Now, you think that I'm coming up with this example, but I'm not.
I have 2 of those cases on my docket right now, 2 of them, just like
and
that.
Those are felony assaults very easily. They come to my court like that all the time. And to think that those are not something that a PR bond would be legitimate for, like when you read these, when you read something like that, you understand this is not something that happens run of the mill for this person, that this is something that is a very one time, you know, under the circumstances. We all see cases like this. But see, when you do a broad stroke like this law does, it doesn't take into account the individual case of that person. Not only that, it takes the discretion away from the judges that you all and that every jurisdiction has had in choosing the elected officials that actually go along with the community's standards and norms, right? You know, and we know, because we talk to our communities, what's important to you. And we know that you want to be kept safe, but you also know, and I know, that when someone is having a mental psychosis break, that's sometimes not something that we want them in a jail for. We want them in hospitals. We want them getting care. And so there's lots of circumstances that fit that rubric of assault that they have done a broad brush on, that all of a sudden you see that there's going to be a lot of people that get caught up in that in the system that there's not a solution for. I'm going to give you all a really fast stat to show you what has happened over the years. In the mid-1990s, 30% of our jail housed people that were unadjudicated. In other words, they were not found guilty. They had not pled guilty. They're waiting for their day in court. 30% of the jail made up of not guilty yet, or didn't have a trial, not going to plead, I'm going to fight this. 30% of the jail. Now it's over 70% of the jail are unadjudicated people. And if
that
we
is
believe,
getting massively worse.
and if we believe that people are innocent until proven guilty, then it's very hard to put those two numbers together.
So in this bill, does it leave any room for judicial discretion?
Very little.
Well, that's uplifting.
And they're signaling really hardcore their desire to take a lot more judicial discretion away. Removing from Texans the right to bail at all is definitely on the agenda. They have shown that in their proposals to amend the Constitution that gives you the right to bail. And they've shown that in their words and actions. But when we say bail, make no mistake, what we're talking about is a police officer's discretion to incarcerate you on very little evidence for a very extended period of time. And how long can an innocent person be locked up because they upset a police officer and are poor? Before we get on to other disasters and emergencies, I just want to kind of point out one other little thing that we haven't talked about in the bail bill, and that is its attack on charitable bail organizations. During the protests last year, a lot of people were bonded out of jail by charitable bail organizations, mostly in Houston. I think you'll find that just a vast majority of this document is aimed at Houston and how Houston, and specifically Lena Hidalgo and other elected Democrats in Houston, have really hurt the feelings of conservative legislators. But one of the greater life hacks that Houstonians and others came up with during the protests was to pool money together and make a charitable bail fund. And that was moderately successful, but just as a theoretical, wildly successful in pissing off conservatives. They felt like, wait a minute, if the poorest get together and put money together, then they'll have all of the rights and privileges of rich people. And we have designed this system to work super good for rich people. So that can't be allowed to happen. And here is what you see. You see really, really targeted attacks on charitable bail organizations. Registering with the sheriff, reporting out how many people they bond out, and lots and lots of monitoring. There was another draft where a charitable bail organization can only bond out 2 people a month. So I guess choose your darlings, but there's a simple workaround on this one, and that is that it doesn't apply to charitable bail organizations that are religiously based. So as somebody who has operated and participated in a charitable bail organization, we all found Jesus just this year. So that's what we're going to do.
Or to family members. Or to family members.
Right, family members.
Right.
But of course, it's a nonprofit. So if you're encouraged to bond out family members, you're also undermining the whole point of a nonprofit. It's self-corrupting. If a charitable bail organization only works for the charity's family members, then we have another way to disband this charity. So.
All right, so we are running really short on time. So if there are any other major horrible things about this bill, I'd like for us to quickly highlight them. If not, we would like to open it up for questions. So will the presenters let us know, are we through with the ugliness?
I think that there is a couple of other uglies, like for example, that they want to make sure that pretrial puts information on a website. I am always afraid that they're going to put people's names out and things like that will harm people that have not been, they've been accused, but they've not been found guilty. They say that this is not supposed to have personal information go out, but I think you're always going to find problems when that sort of stuff is mandated. So it's a long and arduous bill, but I do have not only several misdemeanor judges, I also have several criminal attorneys, and Dana, who's running for the Court of Criminal Appeals. I think there's lots of practitioners here in the room that y'all deal with bail every day. You either ask for it, you either give it, you sometimes deny it. From what you have heard that this bail bill does, or from your own reading, comments, are you worried about it? Are you looking forward to it?
If it's up for me, so I'm in the jail every day. So we do ours every single day. And on many levels, it scares me to death. And of course, they're still not addressing anything about the mental health and the 1622 components that we're required to consider in this as well. Money, you have money, you don't have money, but if you have the mental health component, that's a whole nother set of issues. And a lot of the magistrates in the city courts are saying, you know what, we punt. We'll do probable cause and sign the warrant, and Dallas, you can come pick everybody up, because the lawsuits are going to start happening because we have no, when there's no more guidance than that. And for me, when I first started as a baby magistrate, Dallas was still sending over by fax this suggested bond schedule, which I continued to throw in the trash can. And so then I got a phone call, and then I had a personal meeting, and then because I wouldn't use the bond schedule, because I was looking at it on an individual basis. And so that's what we're supposed to do.
Right.
But at the same time, the frightening part is, through no intention on your own, if you go back then and look at data over 10 years, did everybody get the same bond? No, they didn't. What did you think about from 10 years ago? Do I remember? Does it look like I pick on white males between this age and that age? I don't know. So people are just like, I can't do this anymore with any confidence that this is not going to go wrong.
And we only track the data that we're interested in hearing the results from, right? So like those kinds of things are not tracked. And the answer to, are we harsher on people of color? Are we harsher on men than women, or women than men? Is probably a very individualized determination, and one that we're not interested in digging into thus far.
And I believe Judge Mulder would like to participate in this conversation.
Yes, thank you, you all.
as a misdemeanor judge, well, first I want to piggyback on what Allison was saying. You know, in 2019, one of our statistics is that Texas, 12% of Texas is African American, but 29% of the people in our Texas prisons are African American. So not only the criminal justice system as a whole has a horrible disproportionate impact on people of color, but even more so with regard to bail bonds. This disproportionate effect of bail bonds, we've been able to really try to eliminate this disproportionate effect with our personal recognizance bonds, what we call a PR bond, where somebody doesn't have to pay, right? They simply based on the fact that they have no criminal history, they have roots in the community, they're not a danger to society. In misdemeanor courts, we're signing these, 5 or 10 a day to get people out of jail. If we can't give people PR bonds and we have to, give somebody a 50-cent bond or a $1 bond, this is absolutely ridiculous amount of paperwork that then my clerks have to spend time doing. Then the disposition has to go over to the jail. I mean, it's going to bog down the system so much, and mean that ultimately some poor person is going to spend another night or two in jail, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Thank you, Judge Mulder. And we did have a question that says PR bonds are the same as ROR bonds in other states. Is that correct? Judge, I'll say a release on your own recognizances is the same as a personal recognizance bond.
Yes.
So yes, so there we go. So any other questions? Because we are running out of time.
If I can make one little note, that we've talked about how these restrictions are really unfair to people who are poor. They also have a completely mirrored effect to people who have money. People who have money are able to, just like we were talking at the beginning about how $2,000 is a lot of money to me. It's nothing to Jeff Bezos. Indigency is not the only consideration. People who have more money should have much higher bonds. Bonds have to be set at an amount that's going to be meaningful to people. And if we are going to use money as a proxy for people coming back to court and taking the legal system seriously, then it has to be an individualized assessment that treats rich people, that sets a higher bond for rich people, because people who have a lot of money are able to live with very few consequences and not have the same legal system.
Brandy, I'll end on this irony. The law is called the Damon Allen law because of a law enforcement officer who was killed in East Texas. And the interesting thing is that person, the person who killed the law enforcement officer, was not out on a PR bond. He was out on a cash bond. And the issue is that if you take away things like a financial questionnaire, if you don't say, how much money do you actually have? I don't know that you're a Jeff Bezos versus an Alison Grinter. Like, how do I know? Right? So it's not just about detecting poverty. It's talking about setting the right number based upon you as an individual. And they have taken the individuality and the power of the judge away so that we can actually do something in this fight to save our communities, but also save the people that their lives, when they get held in jail for a week, 2 days, their families may go out on the streets. And that balance is one that needs to be held. And this law isn't helping us do that as judiciary.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Judge Clinton. And Allison, I want to give you a title. So
I
can
know,
I just call you Queen Defense Attorney Gritner? Would that be cool with you?
I've never known what the word provost means. I'd like to be provost.
Okay, so I'm thinking it's probably not applicable to this, but I'll throw it out there anyway. So Provost
Alison Grinter Allen. Well done.
So thank you so much, everybody, for that excellent presentation. It is something that has been completely and totally overlooked by the news media, by everything else, because there's other constitutional rights being eroded that are getting a lot more airtime. So we wanted to make sure that we brought this to everybody's attention. Additionally, what I'm really, really hoping that the non-attorneys and non-judicial candidates on this meeting has taken away the importance of judges and who we elect as judges and what role that they play in our society, and not just civil, criminal, all of it, magistrates. They all play a huge, important part in our entire system. And so, yes, it does matter who you vote for. And if you don't vote for a judge because you didn't want to go all the way down the ballot, well, then I'm sorry, but shame on you. So I'm just going to throw that out there. It is extremely important. If you need to know more, please contact the feds. We'll be glad to send you some more information. Just, I'm sure that all of the judges and all the candidates that for judges on this meeting would be glad to have a conversation with you about their qualifications and why that they should be judged versus anybody else. But thank you so much. And now to Joey.
Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for everyone coming. We have such a big turnout that it would be take us a half hour to list all of the candidates and elected officials who showed up. So really appreciate everyone. And we will be putting this video on YouTube. We recorded it. So we'll post it on YouTube. We'll put a thank you to everyone. We'll include links to all the candidate campaigns so everyone can see what who all was here and catch up with all of those candidates at another time. And then I'm going to share really quickly just the what's next, like our next meetings. But then we have a fun thing going on. We have a poll that Trish is going to start in just a minute. Just one sec, Trish. Let me show this screen. Oh, wait, I didn't do it right. Share. There we go. Everyone sees this. This is just what's coming up next. We have another monthly meeting on October 5th. Our first Slacky hour is on Friday, September 17th at 6 p.m., which will be a fun opportunity to learn about Slack and how we can use it for organizing, and that it's not a scary tool. I swear to God, it will be fun and easy. And then everyone should be aware of the reproduction march that's on October 2nd. And we'll post more info about all of that coming up. But Trisha, are you there? Can we do our poll?
Yes, I'm here. Okay, I'm gonna launch this poll. I don't know how this works, but I'm gonna make a pie for whoever gets the most answers as a yes to this. Okay, so I don't know how this works when I launch it. So you guys can see the questions?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay,
I can see it. Yep.
I'll make a pie to your liking.
I don't see a question. I just see something that says quick poll.
Oh, well, isn't that it?
Well, mine shows it. Pandemic
maybe
poll.
it's because I'm a co-host.
Yeah, the pandemic poll. So I don't know how you vote.
Okay.
Does somebody know how to? Oh, I don't think I can vote because I launched it. Do y'all see it or no?
I can see the pandemic poll and I've been answering the questions.
Okay, good. Yay.
Yay.
Mike, I can see it, but it won't let me answer, and I really wanted to.
Maybe because you're the co-host. Oh, I see.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, that's not fair. Well, you can answer it.
Well, we'll have our own meeting where I can answer. I was going I have not skipped 4 days without a shower, but maybe slightly less than that.
Yeah, like 2, I think. It's should be maximum. Oh, look at all you people that have skipped 4 days of bathing. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. No, I
maxed out on 3, dude. I maxed out on 3. I couldn't do any more.
Okay. This is good stuff. Yeah, who's wearing pants right now is what I want to know.
I am. I just want everyone to know, as host, I felt obligated to wear pants.
The rest of you, as an attorney, I need to let you know that you do not have to answer that question.
Oh, wait, I have a comment. I'll allow it.
There you go.
I have been watching 48 hours nonstop of Law and Order, so that's my new phrase.
But here's the deal: I have gone to the grocery store in pajamas, and not just during COVID. So I'm outing myself on that.
They must be fancy pajamas.
No, I don't even do fancy pajamas. I do straight up just like random flannel
Onesies.
Like
You should wear a onesie to the store and you'll get extra points.
I gotta go to the bathroom too much. Onesies don't work for me.
Okay, I need you to post it so I can. I want to see it on Facebook. Post it for me, Brandy. Come on.
Post this because I can't see the poll either. We got to post it. It'll be hilarious.
So it says how you put off productive things to binge one or more seasons of a show, like every day.
Oh, yeah. I know. Yes. I should have asked what show. That should have been part of the question too.
I've got too long of a list to answer.
Get extra points for that.
Did you realize that you're smarter than a fifth grader after trying to help your kid with virtual school? No, I realized I was not smarter than a fifth grader. Therein lies the problem.
So look at all the no people that said no to a sourdough starter. Like all my friends did that.
I don't know how to cook bread.
I don't even know.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
bread's easy.
I don't
but
need to eat all that
sourdough's
bread.
hard.
Mine
okay,
got
bread.
stale. I just threw it out last week. It sat there for a year.
However, I will come to your house if you make it and take it off your hands.
Yes. Maybe
No, it was hard as a rock. I had to throw it out.
So did you watch Tiger King? I so watched Tiger King. And here's what is hilarious is that if you watch Tiger King, you'll see that the Tiger King actually ran for governor of Oklahoma.
Really?
Same year that my good family friend, Drew Edmondson ran for governor of Oklahoma. And I texted him and I was like, I didn't know the Tiger King ran against you. And he's like, it was such a joy. It was awesome.
Oh my gosh. Is the guy still in jail? Or he's out?
Yeah. No, he's not out. He's still in. I think. I'm pretty
There were
sure.
a lot of psychos in that film.
There was some serious dysfunction.
Okay, so it doesn't tell me.
That was meth. That was all the meth they were on.
Oh,
yeah, there was some serious drug and other mental dysfunction happening in that.
There's some really close. I like the people who said define pants. That's good.
I like it when you're trying to clarify. Does pants include underwear?
Right, I know. Oh, I like there's hardly anybody did a sourdough starter. This is cool. I didn't clang pans together.
I didn't know what a sourdough starter was.
Well,
I was like,
I didn't either until the pandemic started. And I failed miserably at it. And there's a lot of people that did not skip bathing for 4 days. Maybe I should have said 2. 2 would be more accurate, I think. Well,
I think, when you start breaching the 72 hours, it gets a little iffy.
Yeah, your dog starts to complain.
Or goes berserk.
Yeah.
All right. So if everyone has done, I'm going to end the poll. Is that okay, Trisha?
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
My meeting ended early, so I'm here. Yay!
Hey! Okay. I said share poll results, but I don't see anything. Is there anything?
No, it's up.
I got
It's
it.
up.
I've got it.
Okay, I don't. So let us know what happened.
Yeah, no, I can't see it.
Okay. So have you skipped bathing for 4 days or more? 87% of this room said no.
Good people like to shower.
I love to shower.
Clean beds.
Number 2, have you imbibed substances you shouldn't when you are meant to be working, such as day drinking before a Zoom meeting? 37% of my Democrats in this room said, oh, heck yeah. 50% did not want to admit that they did. And then 13% said, what day is it again?
So that's over 80%. Well done.
If you
That's
ask
right.
this with a group of attorneys, I think it'd be 100% yes. That's my
There's
belief.
a lot of attorneys on this call. So yeah.
Number 3, has your significant other or family member accidentally made their presence in your Zoom call in their underwear? 17% of the brave souls said yes, their husbands or spouses or partners did. 67% of the room basically don't want to admit that it ever happened. And then 17% of the room, which has to be every single lawyer in here, says, what qualifies as underwear?
I've actually had a child debut in God's holy goodness of just skin on Zoom.
Nice. Nice.
Oh yeah, my kids walk in their underwear all the time when I'm on meetings.
Yeah, she didn't even bother with the underwear. She was getting ready to get in bed. She thought she'd be funny, came running in, not realizing I was on a Zoom, and I was just like,
Okay.
yeah, there you go.
Hopefully it wasn't recorded.
There is
Wasn't my Zoom, so I have no idea.
on here about pants.
Mhm.
4, have you been on a Zoom meeting without pants on? 37% said, oh yeah. And then 47% said, nope. And then again, that same 17%, lawyers, I promise you, define pants.
Mhm.
Number 5, have you gone to the grocery store in PJs? Brandy and crew said 37% yes. 50% said no. And 13% said, who doesn't? So
That's
it's a
me.
50-50 split.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you put off productive things to binge one more season of a show? 63% are bingers,
Wow.
23% are deniers, and 13% say binging is productive.
Yes, I agree with that.
7, did you realize you are not smarter than a 5th grader after trying to help your kid with virtual school?
Oh my God, yes.
43 said, yes, I am not smarter than a 5th grader. And then 57% of the people in the room don't have 5th graders. No, I'm teasing.
5th graders in my house.
8, this is a sourdough starter. Only 20% said yes. 80% have no clue what a sourdough starter is. And 0% says I'm anti-gluten.
Okay.
Yay.
Number 9, do you clang pans together at 7 p.m. for frontline workers? And 60% of this room clang and 70% quietly show their support. Yes. And the last one, do you watch The Tiger King? And it is a 53 sneaking over the line for a yes, and 47% say no, or at least they're not going to tell us.
Well, that was awesome. That was very
This
fun.
was fun. Who came up with these questions?
We all did.
Trisha, Heidi, and Brandy.
Yeah.
Well, I came up with the shower question because I saw something about how celebrities are having a debate about how much they shower in COVID. And I was like, that's funny because I've had many conversations with friends that have said daily showering is, optional. COVID. So, hey, not a problem. Yeah. So we just thought that'd be little something fun to do. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us. It has been extremely educational and depressing all at the same time. We are so glad to have you here. We are really wanting this meeting to be in person, but of course the Delta variant decided to screw it up for everybody. So there's that. But next time that we meet up, we'll be going over, as we were supposed to tonight, but we ran out of time, what the new Fed structure looks like now that there have been certain founding members that have departed, although they are not long gone.
No way.
So we'll be addressing that, and just stay attentive of any and all emails that Trisha does and makes those outstanding names. She actually makes those. Those are not things that she searches for. She makes them. Home makes the memes. If you see the last one, it was all Beatles memes, which I freaking loved it. And that's really kind of the only reason I even opened the email, so I can see the memes. And then she gets mad at me for not remembering what was in there. Because I'm like, remember the memes. That's what we do.
Trisha, will you be sending out a Zoom link for the Slack meeting?
Yes.
Thanks.
Yep. I will write that down so I don't forget. Yes.
Yeah. Did I set the Zoom link yet? I might have.
We'll figure it out. But anyway, I think
we'll
everybody's getting ready to get gone. Otherwise, thank you, everybody.
Yes.
Hope
Thanks
you had
so
a
much
wonderful
for doing
holiday
this. This is a great
weekend.
meeting.
Hey, Brandy.
Great. Yes. What?
I'm gonna be live streaming on Facebook. We're gonna do a jury pick in the morning, start testimony in the afternoon. for driving while intoxicated case. If anybody would like to friend me, Nancy Mulder, MULDER, send me a Facebook friend request and I will accept you. And then we're going to start jury pick probably around 9:30, 10 a.m.
My
tomorrow.
friends, that sounds flippin' awesome.
It does.
So if you're able to pay attention, going through voir dire and all the other kind of procedural things that happens would be very interesting for people who have an interest, because although it is similar to Law and Order, it's not the same.
It's not.
So
it's
not
education.
the same.
Hey, but
And you might want to
I'll
check it
tell you.
out. So thank you, Judge Mulder. I
sounds
think that's a
awesome. What-
wonderful opportunity
Yeah.
for people.
What time does it start, Judge?
We'll probably start the pick around 10 a.m.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank
But
you.
I'll turn it on so you can watch us, getting ready and having hearings and everything. So
Oh, very cool.
That's great. I love that. I love that. That's great.
that make sure, but send me a Facebook friend request, okay?
All right. I did already.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good night. Have a good week.
you.
We'll
Thank
talk
you,
to you next
Brandy.
time.
Thanks, y'all. Great
Bye.
job, Judge
Bye.
Allison. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.